I was sent the script and I was reading it, and I got to the scene where Audrey's on the roof of the hospital and she's talking to one of her patients about how this patient can conceive of her own passing. And I thought, my goodness, no adult wants to be in that kind of a conversation with any child. And yet here was a woman who had those conversations daily and for decades, and at the same time was fighting tooth and nail to save their lives. And I just had such esteem for that sense of for that mission that she obviously had, and that I thought I would like to do whatever I can to try to help tell the story.
The 60s were a period of change. Do
Mhm.
you think that she was able to accomplish what she did in a patriarchal society because she had the support of this social movement?
Yeah, I do think that she had. I think that, yeah, it's set in 1969, which, not dissimilar to contemporary times, right? It was a time of great discord. It was a time of great disassembling of things, and also where people felt that they were in the midst of, chaos. And I think that she had the support of her colleagues. And I mean, I actually was able to speak to many people that worked with Audrey. So she definitely had the support of her colleagues. And I think it was that which probably helped her move through the context of inherent sexism that was just present. I mean, the way I put it to the cast and the crew when we were talking about the project, is sort of like the wallpaper in the room. It's not the thing itself, but it's the context that she's working in. And so I think she's definitely a story about whatever the context, whether it's that work environment or the world around you, if you can find the thing that you think you can do to help, that maybe if you are myopic and tenacious and, fighting for that goal, and it's for the benefit of the most vulnerable among us, that you can maybe make a difference.
Um, if you just think of the film, it's a tough subject. But when
Mhm.
you watch the movie, it's very inviting. How did you accomplish that? And if you did it on purpose?
Oh, thank you. That's a massive compliment. Yes, it was on purpose. I'm glad you felt like it was inviting. That was exactly the idea. Yeah, the trick of it was that, it's a tough topic. And so my notion was to create a world that the audience could be in that was so visually and viscerally consistent and compelling that you kind of want to be there. And at the end of an hour and a half, it turns out you've heard a story about kids with cancer. But so it was very much by design. It was very, the color palette, the use of patterns. I wanted the film to feel like Ektachrome. I wanted it to be no primary. I only use the color red once or twice. So it's all these sort of deeply saturated non-primary colors, and very careful location scouting so that you really feel like you're sunk into the world, and it's a world that, and then with the music and the score, that it feels like a little unusual and a little compelling. So that's massive that you felt that way. Thank you.
Also, it felt like at the beginning, I thought I was watching a documentary because it's very realistic, and also the texture of the film, the texture, the visual texture of the whole thing is very from that period, I think. Was it difficult to get all the production design and all that? Because we think the 60s is easy to reproduce, but it's not that easy. It's been
No.
80 years or, you know.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah. It's as with anything, and I think this is part of the, I think, super fun things about directing. It's really about what you omit, right? So it's just, I mean, we didn't shoot on any sort of stages. Everything was practical, and we had 23 days. So it was really just having I'm a pretty detail-oriented person. So it was just about sort of like, okay, this segment of the city is going to work, and just like checking to make sure that the dates of the buildings that were in fact, 1969 or before. And I think the biggest challenge was probably the vehicles, and only because of budgetary reasons. So I had to be very tricky and clever about how to reuse vehicles where no one noticed.
They were
Um,
beautiful, though, beautiful cars.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we actually went to car shows and actually talked to, car buffs at car shows, like, and gave them our number. Like, look, what's the story? Would you please volunteer your car for the movie? And a lot of people did. They were very kind.
And Natalie Dormer, I loved her.
Yeah,
I've
she's
seen her
brilliant.
before, but I don't know if I've seen her in leading a film.
Yeah, no, she's brilliant. You know, I'd seen her. I was actually not that familiar with Game of Thrones. Actually, I saw her in the remake of Picnic at Hanging Rock, and saw her in the shot where it's on her back, and then she turns to the camera and she has this kind of fire. And I thought, ah, this is the person to play Audrey Evans. She's brilliant, and you can feel her thinking, and it's a compelling thing to watch her thinking as an actress, and she imbues her rendition of Audrey with that, and that was a critical element. This is basically just it's a story about a tenacious and flawed, brilliant, kind of off, but you know ultimately revolutionary thinker. So I thought that Natalie did just an incredible job to.
I think she did a wonderful job. It was like we were having Audrey all the time. I couldn't think, I mean, I think she became Audrey or she created a new Audrey. And also I felt that she was very protective of her own world, which was very nice because
Yeah,
she had some enemies, right?
right.
Within the pharmaceutical industry. Could you talk a little about that?
Yeah, I mean, she had, as we all do in our work environments, she had people that could necessarily see her vision, and but she always kept her focus on, which I think is a lesson to all of us, right? Like she always kept her focus on what is going to do the greatest good. And in this case, and her, it was what can I do to benefit the most vulnerable among me, which are these children that I'm fighting for. So there were definitely bureaucratic conflicts and interpersonal conflicts and all of that. But I think it's a testimony to that we can all kind of walk away from, that if you can keep your focus on the higher good, that you can navigate the things that might be obstructions in that path.
Uh, Last question. I think we're running out of time. And the children in the movie, they were wonderful. How did did you find them or?
I love working with children, and I love working with animals, actually. Like I find them to be very compelling and really honest and forthright. And so um we just worked very hard, my crew and I, to make sure that the set felt safe and calm, even on a 23-day shoot when we were working with the kids. Julian, who plays Mia, is just an incredible talent. A lot of the kids were newcomers. A lot of the dialogue is improvisation. And that's a testament to them, and also Natalie being able to, you know, and generate a conversation with a kid. And then I would just sort of turn the camera on. I just would sort of saw it and was like, let's, grab that. So it was lovely working with the kids. They're terrific. Kids are great.
Natalie was so loving, no, with the kids. It was amazing.
Yeah. That's who she is as a person. And that's how Audrey was too. So
Yeah.